Hi, this is Amy Ricker, and this is my presentation of legal aspects of teacher evaluation. Teacher evaluation was defined in the article of teacher evaluation as an overview. Is a formal process a school uses to review and rate teachers' performance and effectiveness in the classroom. Things that they're looking at and using is it's used to provide feedback and guide professional development, governed by state laws, designed and operated at all district levels, and it varies widely in details and requirements from district to district and state to state. Teacher evaluations, over time, evaluations have changed based on 4 factors. In the past, it was very much just an observation. The principal or observer came into the classroom and observed. Now we're looking at news research on teacher quality, philanthropic interest in boosting teacher effectiveness, the efforts by advocacy groups and policymakers to revamp the state laws, and political pressure to dismiss poorly performing teachers. The one thing that data has shown is that the majority of teachers score just as high on new evaluations as they did on previous evaluations. So if a teacher is going to teach, they're probably already teaching. What has teacher performance evaluation become an issue? Why has it become an issue? In the 1990s to the early 2000s, data consistently showed that some teachers helped their students learn significantly more than other teachers. So a really good teacher, a top performing teacher, helped their student gain more than maybe a whole letter grade's worth of learning, where your worst teacher, you're not good, your weaker teachers, they only achieved maybe half a grade of learning. Since the federal government has asked for revamping and evaluations, so from 2009 to the present, revamping the teacher evaluations has helped to give teachers better information on strengths and weaknesses and help districts tailor ongoing supports through in-services, individual learning plans, and things like that. It also prompted the race to the top competition that the federal government to try to push to get those evaluations changed and look into the new teacher evaluation systems. They also differentiate among at least 3 levels of performance when you're looking at your teachers, not just if they can do it or not do it, whether they're developing proficient at mastery. And it's also taking into account the student achievement. Agreements can add additional nuances. What that means is what constitutes a proficient teacher in one state may not be the same in another state, and the same thing is from district to district. Here in Kansas, what we say a proficient teacher looks like, and if you go 22 miles over to Dighton, Kansas, they may have a whole different definition of what a proficient teacher means. Some states took some steps to connect the new evaluation system to their other policies. They looked at teacher compensation, they've looked at promotion, they looked at dismissal. Those are all things that they looked at. With that, some states, here's some example of states and what they're doing. Colorado law permits schools to return tenured teachers who receive several poor evaluations to a probationary status, meaning they don't just get rid of them, but they let them know that they've got to improve before they're dismissed. Rhode Island law prohibits a student from being instructed for 2 consecutive years by a teacher that's deemed ineffective, meaning if a teacher gets a poor evaluation, then they want to give the student a better opportunity for the next couple of years to try to help get them back up. Florida law requires districts to pay more to their teachers who score well on their state's new evaluation system. And many other states look at evaluation results can be used as evidence for dismissing a tenured teacher for poor performance. And those are just a few examples of systems and their policies that they're implementing. How have teacher unions responded? In this article, we're talking about the NEA and the AFT, the National Education Association and America Federation of Teachers, and they have issued new policies and statements on teacher evaluations. They've not always agreed with what the federal government's wanted to do. They highlighted the potential of better evaluations to provide valuable feedback on teacher skills. They do believe that we needed to do better at letting our teachers know how they're doing and help them find ways to become better teachers. But they are wary about connecting the systems to teacher pay and tenure. it's not just a one-piece snapshot of why a teacher should keep their job or get a pay increase. There needs to be a lot of things involved in that. Adamantly, they oppose the inclusion of student handwritten test scores in the systems, and their citings are concerns about the validity of test scores in the systems. Some teachers have far more students with special needs, or maybe just social emotional needs, not necessarily just IEP students. You can't make a kid do well on a test. They have to want to do well, and if you have a lot of children who have special needs, they may try their darn hardest, but that's just not fair to penalize a teacher on that. There's potential for teachers facing performance pressure. So those teachers who worry about making the cut and doing the best, they're going to teach the test, and that's not really giving a good idea of what a child knows either. Teachers in non-tested subjects are being judged by scores of students they don't teach. So if I was a social studies teacher, but I'm being based off of English and math test scores, but maybe I don't teach some of those kids. They never step foot in my classroom, but I'm being judged on those test scores. These groups are saying that's not fair. Great Public Schools for Every Student Succeeds Act. Every Student Succeeds Act, the ESSA, ended federal government's involvement in teacher evaluation systems. The ESSA doesn't require states to set up teacher evaluations based on student test scores. They allow the states to redesign and submit their accountability systems. So their provisions are: they prohibit the Secretary of Education prescribing evaluation systems and defining teacher effectiveness. They leave it up to the states to develop their own goals and guidelines, and the states design and implement the systems that are based in part on evidence of student achievement, academic achievement, student growth, and shall include multiple measures of educator performance. So they still have guidelines, each state does, but they're taking out that extra hand in there. Bargaining and advocacy implications. There's a savings clause, and as I was going through our district's negotiated agreement, I saw that savings clause is in there, and that's just saying rights are preserving, not rights creating provisions. So just how, if rules are already in place, this doesn't override that, and vice versa. Title II, ESSA requires local education agencies to have a more meaningfully consult with teachers, staff, parents, and all stakeholders to develop grant applications. Evidence shows that student test scores to determine teacher effectiveness does not improve instructional practices. You're either going to be a really good teacher, or those test scores don't necessarily make you a better teacher. They don't necessarily push a teacher to become a better teacher either. Evaluation systems must be adequately funded, fully developed, and validated. You can't just go buy something at Walmart. You've got to have something that has been tested and approved and validated and is a legal type of system. Improvement plans and due process rights should be considered and aligned with due process rights of the contract. Teacher evaluations head to the courts. These are new methods for these new methods for evaluating teachers. It's led to a lot of litigations, lots of court issues, the NEA and AFT. These lawsuits challenge aspects of the system. We're going to look at a few of those. Some court cases. New Mexico and Louisiana, these were suits on how new systems were put into place, meaning they didn't necessarily agree with the rules that they came about or how they were evaluating teachers. Tennessee and Florida, they have suits on key grading components, student test scores to judge all teachers, meaning they're looking at, again, just because I teach social studies, I'm being judged on kids' math and English scores. New York, suits are based on baseline fairness, and in Nevada, the suits are based on tenure and how they legally get their tenure. I looked at the Florida Cook versus Bennett lawsuit that was filed on April 16th of 2013. And their allegations were that the teachers in subjects without statewide standardized tests are being judged based on progress of students they do not teach. It's based off of subjects they do not teach, or based off of school-wide growth formula. And when we're talking about that growth formula, I did some research on that. They use scores from their English and mathematics, and that accounts for a host of things, like there's kids with prior test scores, or maybe didn't have prior test scores. Their attendance rate was factored into that. Their disability status was also figured into that. And then the output, the teacher component, which measures individual teachers' effectiveness on student scores, and the common school component, which measured the potential impact of factors that are part of their environment, such as principal or their neighborhood. The teacher's final evaluation score is calculated by adding these different components together, and 50% of that common school component score was used to decide if they were, an effective and valid teacher. This court case is completed, and the ruling was the federal judge ruled in May of 2014, ruled for the state. It was appealed to the U.S. court, and in July of 2015, the U.S. court upheld the previous federal judge's ruling. So Florida did not, their educational association did not appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. Because the state and the district defendants could have rationally believed that the challenged evaluation policies would improve students' academic achievement, the judge felt the district court's entry of summary and judgment in the defendant's favor needed to stand. Scott County Public Schools, talked a little bit about this in my previous paper. The McCrell evaluation tool is used to certify evaluations for teachers for the school year. State guidelines regarding frequency and evaluation are used. Who evaluates whom? In our negotiated agreement, this is what it shows. It shows the person to be evaluated, by whom they will be evaluated, and how often. So if you are a continuing teacher in this district, you've been teaching in this district, you maybe came in from another district, maybe you changed roles in our district. The first 2 years, you're evaluated one time a semester, no later than the 60th school day of that semester. And then your third and fourth year, you're one time, no later than February 15th. And after your fourth year, one time every 3 years, no later than February 15th of that school year. If you are a beginning teacher, counselor, or librarian, again, superintendent, building principal, or assistant principal could do it. First 3 years, one time each semester. Your fourth and fifth year, one time per year by February 15th. And after your fifth year, you're one time every 3 years. Evaluation, these are kind of the steps and what the evaluators are looking for. We use the McCrell again as our evaluation tool. Informal evaluations are those walkthroughs. We do a goal setting based off of your self-evaluation. You have a mid-year review, usually about Christmas time. You sit down with the principal, talk about how you're doing, upload artifacts to show your growth, and then at the end of the year, again, you meet and talk about your things. Certified staff may request formal evaluations more frequently, based off of consent with your building administrator. And professional development plans, or IDPs, will consist of at least 2 goals based off of your self-evaluation at the beginning of the year that you're going to be working for. If you do not meet your needs, you are put on a plan of assistance, and teacher may be placed on that plan of assistance when he or she is rated or demonstrated not developing or making progress for 2 years in growth. Student growth measure is weighted at 12%. So they do look at some test scores, but it doesn't hold a lot of stuff. Teacher files, just some information. They're open to teachers. Your right to reproduce contents and your documents retained in by the board, like your credentials and things like that. Evaluation procedure: if a complaint is made by an individual or an outside agency to the administrator, they have to notify you in writing about the complaint. You sit down with your building administrator and talk about it. You have the right to have somebody with you during all this time. And if you do not agree with the complaint by the building administrator, you have 14 days to put it into writing. Grievances: any bargaining unit member who is disciplined, demoted, or suspended shall have the right to appeal to such actions. And we have 4 levels. You start at the principal. If you aren't happy there, then you can put it in writing. You can go to and it goes to the superintendent. If you're not happy with your procedure there, you put it in writing, it goes to the Board of Education. Again, if you're not happy, then you're at the district court. So my reflection as a future school administrator, I hope to stay current on district and state policies regarding evaluations. I think it's very important to know what's out there, what's going on, what's coming down the pike, so that you can get your staff prepared and you yourself can be prepared. Communicate with your staff the expectations and timelines, what you hope to see, when you're going to do things. Make time spent doing your evaluations purposeful and meaningful. Otherwise, you're not going to have the best success for students and staff.